Perfect. Another Saturday, living the dream.
Oh, you know it.
Just what else would you want to do on a Saturday other than be here in a parking lot with your community?
There are a number of things that I'd rather be doing, but it's okay. We have to be here.
Yeah, it is.
We have to
true.
be here.
It's true. I was like sitting cuddled with my kid, and I was like, all right, well, we're out in the snow because shit's getting real. So, talk a little bit about what you're doing here today. Why did you decide? Why are we here on a Saturday? What's going on?
So the federal government and DHS is trying to build an ICE detention facility right here in Merrimack, and we need to put a stop to it. Governor Ayotte did either not know or was lying about knowing that this project was going on, and that's very concerning because we should have local input into the types of decisions that are being made here. I mean, hell, even the Republican state senator from Merrimack, the town that we're in right now, has said that he doesn't want this facility here. It is completely troubling that we have to show up en masse outside the Merrimack Town Hall in order to make our voices heard. And this is so utterly important because having a facility like this built in New Hampshire would be very detrimental to all of New England.
I want to take a step back because you have been very involved in a lot of the work that we've been doing to push back against what ICE is doing here in New Hampshire. Can you talk a little bit more about like the bigger picture for folks who maybe aren't paying attention? There's some wins that we've had so far, right, in this process. Can you talk a little bit about some of those other areas that you've been fighting alongside us around ICE here in New Hampshire?
Well, we've seen a number of aspects where ICE has been trying to get contracts, 287G contracts, with local or county governments. And we saw actually in Rockingham County the other week that they tabled the contract proposal. They have a Republican majority on their county commissioners board, and they said no. We are putting a lot of pressure on people, and that includes bills coming through places like my committee in the New Hampshire House, Executive Department's administration, which I would encourage you all to email the representatives on that committee because we have a bill, HB 1609. It would ban state funds from being used for ICE detention facilities. It would prevent state funding or any political subdivision, so town, county, from using those funds to engage with ICE. And I mean, if you ask me, 287G, that's 287 grams of fat that your town and local community can cut from their budget.
Always a politician. Heath, we jumped right in and didn't give you a chance to introduce yourself. Can you recontextualize us and who you are and why you're here?
Hi, my name is Heath Howard. I'm a state representative from the communities of Stratford and Barrington, and I'm running for the 1st Congressional District to replace Representative Pappas, who's running for U.S. Senate. And we have a real opportunity right here in this state because it's one of the few open primaries anywhere in the country, meaning we have a lot of influence as to what type of Democrat we want sent to Washington.
There's a lot of money getting poured into your campaign, too, I'm noticing, from out of state. There's some fresh data that I saw last night that's really like blowing my mind about how much money is coming into your competitors. Clearly, this is an important race that a lot of people are paying attention to, not just here in the U.S., but internationally. So one of the things I want to circle back to is these wins in Rockingham County, for example. I think sometimes people can't wrap their head around the fact that just showing up to meetings, showing up to these rooms where maybe you don't want to be or you don't feel comfortable can actually make a difference. Can you talk a little bit about like what that process looked like of people showing up to that meeting and testifying, things like that?
So because of the pressure that was put on the Rockingham County Commissioners, they had weekly hearings about this proposal of turning their county facility and jail into an ICE detention facility. And that is something where we were able to hold them off from bringing this up every single week because so many people were coming to testify in front of them. There was so much political pressure that they felt compelled to say, no, this is not acceptable. We do not want to pursue this. And so they ended up saying, hey, we're going to table this despite having a Republican majority on their board. They could have passed it. They could have, but they chose not to.
I want to make sure Pat, can you give me a thumbs up if we're good on audio on the TikTok too? Just making sure Heath's clear. So tell me a little bit about what you're hearing from constituents as you're both in your role as a state rep, but also you're on the campaign trail. What's the New Hampshire response to this? How are people reacting?
People are pissed. I mean, we are seeing our neighbors murdered in the street. Renee Good, Alex Preddy. I mean, we've seen 7 others killed this year alone. It is a problem when we have federal officers failing to comply with basic laws in the Constitution. They're refusing to follow through with what the oath that they pledged themselves to. And we need to call it out for what it is. I mean, this is not an acceptable thing to continue, and we need to call for the abolition of ICE. I've heard a lot of Granite Staters calling for the abolition of ICE, and I think that we need to follow through on their request.
Absolutely, and I appreciate people like you who are willing to name that and say it like it is. Anything you want to leave people with? Folks who are following along at home, how can they support us here in New Hampshire, or if they're following from elsewhere, what can they learn from what we're doing here in New Hampshire?
Yeah, show up. That is how we make change. And we need to follow people and make sure that we can hear what they're saying right now. We need to make sure that we hold our representatives accountable. We need to make sure that we hear what they're saying. And we need to listen very closely, because the words that come out of their mouths are very important. And we need to criticize them whenever they end up saying things like, oh yeah, we can reform ICE, or we can give them additional budget increases. We need to call them out for that, and we need to say no. That's why we need to make sure that we have people who are elected that will actually listen to what your concerns are. That's why I'm asking you all to show up September 8th.
Don't wait till November. It's going to be too late.
Don't wait till November. We need you to show up in the primary, September 8th, and vote. Whether you're in the 1st district, the 2nd district, whether you're in another state, you need to make sure that you are paying attention to when your local elections are and when you can go to the polls. Here in New Hampshire, that is September 8th. So make sure that you figure out where your local polling location is and come out and vote.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Heath. I'm going to let you go. And that was a nice transition. We're going to talk to somebody who's running for District 2 now. So thanks for joining us. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, and if any of you are interested, please follow along. All of my socials are Heath Howard NH. My website is heathhowardnh.com. I encourage you all to come donate. We need all the support that we can get. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for being here, Heath. I appreciate it.
Take care.
I'll talk to you soon. All right, Paige, you're up. Thank you, guys. How we looking? Any notes? All right.
How we looking?
We're looking all right. I said, Pat, tell me what to do. Feel free to tell me to move somewhere, to hold the mic different.
Okay, Pat, is my hair curling
It looks
in weird
perfect.
ways?
No, it looks we're all out here in the snow. We're all doing the best we can. So thanks for being here.
Okay, great.
I'm here
is this
with
live?
Yeah, we're live.
Oh shoot!
Yeah.
Sorry, everyone. Hi.
No, we're just chatting.
Okay,
That's
good.
the real stuff.
Great.
It's the real. So we've got State Rep Paige Boschman here. Paige Boschman is based in Nashua. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are, what you're doing here today?
Yeah,
what brought
sure.
you out?
So thank you.
Not the weather.
No, that did not bring me out. So hey, everybody. I'm State Rep Paige Boschman. I'm a women's maternal child health and mental health nurse. Also work at Public Health in Nashua, and this has always been important to me. Through my career, I have worked on improving conditions for immigrants, for people of color, for all marginalized communities, because as a nurse, that's what I do. I give equal health to everybody, and it's been important to me to work for that. But back to here. So my ward is Nashua's Ward 4, and that is one of the highest Spanish-speaking communities in the state. And I ran for state rep because I wanted to make sure that although I am not Spanish-speaking, that they would have somebody who at least understood the culture and had worked with the community before and knew the community. At Public Health, I work mostly with undocumented and unhoused, as well as uninsured people. And so again, this just reinforces how important this is to me. These are my constituents. These are my colleagues. These are my friends. These are people in my life. These are people, I feel bad saying this sometimes, but even my kids, they're in really diverse schools, and they're 13, 11, and 7, and even my little guy understands they're taking brown and black people, and he's worried they're going to take his friends. He's worried what's going to happen to them, his neighbor down the street. So this is important for those reasons, but it's important for humans. This is not okay. I don't think we really think about this, but I think especially parents or anybody who has a kid in your life or a family member, think about your friend, your partner, your family being taken, and you don't know where they are and they're gone for months. Mm-hmm. So it's truly horrific. We're juggling with multiple mics here, so I appreciate you. Just make sure they're perfect. Yeah, point at you. No, you're good.
So yeah, next time we're gonna tape them together. We're out here, baby. So talk a little bit about what you're hearing from constituents. You and Heath are both working as state reps, but also out on the campaign trail. Can you talk a little bit about what feedback you're getting from constituents?
Yes.
I'll pull you on in a little bit.
Specifically about ICE and/or about our campaign. Yeah, specifically. I mean, people are horrified. They are absolutely against this. I don't hear from anybody who is in support of this, even like people who are more moderate. I mean, people who haven't been engaged before are reaching out and saying, please do something about this. Speak up for us. Stand up against this. We need you guys to be louder. And that is something that I think there are different ideas of how to fight this along the spectrum of like very policy driven, bipartisan ways, all the way to like, let's mess stuff up. And I'm hearing from all across the spectrum.
Yeah, absolutely. Now it seems like there's a little bit happening at the State House around this. What kind of stuff there's some stuff proposed. It feels like people are trying a lot of different avenues to try and put sand in the gears and slow this down.
Yeah.
How has that been going at the State House?
So not great, as you'd imagine. We are not in the majority. We have about, it changes now and then, but about 40 more Republicans than Democrats. So it's very, very hard for us to win right now. And they stick together as a full block. But some of the things that we did is, and I testified on a bunch of these bills because, like I said, I really care. What some of the bills are doing is essentially trying to stop us, the state, from being able to use state funds to help ICE. So we've tried to say that, state funds can't be used on building or buying or improving detention centers. We have said we can't use state money on including police forces in working with ICE. So we're trying to take away their ability to at least fund it with our dollars. Of course, so far that hasn't been passing in committee. We still have the floor fights. Yeah. And that means we're going to debate on the floor in front of the whole House. And, that is why it's so important. We need you all to be calling your representatives and telling them, you better vote against this. And even if you're somebody who is just more fiscally concerned, I really care about the human part of it, but the fiscal point, we do not have enough money in this state. I don't want our funds being used on human suffering and things that are not prioritized. So we're doing that. A couple weeks ago at the State House, our Dem leadership moved to make what's called waive the rules, because the deadline for submitting legislation that we would try to use to block this, that was due sometime in September. Okay. And so we can't put forth any more legislation. For instance, so we didn't know about the detention center coming before the deadline, right? And so the waiving of a rule is there has to be a reason, and we use the reason new information came up. We didn't know about the detention center. That's a good reason for us to waive so that we can put forth legislation, and something even that would say banning detention centers in the state. And of course they block that. So we are trying to do things legislatively, but it's very, very hard to do things with policy this year.
Can I ask you to speak directly to, I hear from a lot of people on social media who say, I live in a red district, my rep doesn't give a shit what I think. Can you talk a little bit about, while that may be true, the power of public pressure and what that means?
100%. If there's any year where public pressure is working, it is right now. And so what I will tell you is in 2024, when I was a state rep, I feel like the most online submissions that I saw were 300. We have gotten up to 23,000 people as of last year. It makes a difference, and we see them pull legislation, but they're catching on. And so I found out recently they are putting ads on social media to get more signatures. Yeah. So we need you to do signatures, but once it's past the hearing, call your reps, email them, flood them with emails. Even if it just bothers them and puts sand in the gears, it's absolutely worth it. And I've heard a lot of people that say, well, it doesn't make a difference. It makes a difference this year. It really, really, really does.
I think that's super important. I want everyone to hear that while it feels like it might be futile, it is so important, and these people are susceptible to public pressure.
Can I make another thing is, if you're in a district where you have like all reps who are fighting like heck for you, it doesn't hurt to send us a thank you, because like we're so deflated and demoralized right now, and we are so we're bullied by the Republicans. It feels like we're not making a difference, and I've heard from a lot of people, like I see them and they're like, thank you for fighting, and I'm like, oh my God, I didn't know anyone was paying attention. So even a little thing like that, it keeps us going. It really does.
I think that's it's so important. It's a hard job, and y'all don't make any money. For those who don't know, how much the state reps make here in New Hampshire?
$200 for 2 years, and we get taxed. And if we want a fun name tag like this instead of the plastic one, we have to pay for it.
Oh, so that's your jewelry that you've purchased?
That's my jewelry, and I have to pay if I want a state rep license plate.
How much do those cost?
I think somewhere around $20.
Nice. That's a...
Yes,
wow.
Well, here's the thing.
I gotta process that one for a minute.
The plastic ones are pins.
Yeah.
And those fit on blazers. Most women's clothes you can't put pins on. So we've got ourselves one of those pink taxes in the State House.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. All right, Paige, I'm gonna wrap up with you and let you go, but before we wrap up, for those who are just joining the stream, what are we asking people to do to push back against this? How can people in New Hampshire push back? Yep. And then what would you say to people outside of New Hampshire? What can they learn from everything we're doing here?
This is so great. So a bunch of things we can do here. There are still surveys going around that our current Congress people are holding, and they are doing that so they can use that info to people that like leaders they're coordinating with, and they can say, hey, in my state, we have this many thousands of people that are against this. There's also a petition, which is another way to show that people are against this, and you can go to noicenewhampshire.com and you can sign that and keep up with things. Coming to protests like this is super important. The visibility, the bigger we get, the more they know people don't want this. Another thing that you can do when you're playing the long game, and this is like kind of preventative, but we have to be very clear that all 4 of our federal delegates voted for this, and they have not come against it yet. And so, yes, we need to do what needs to be done right now, but if we don't want to be here next year doing the same thing, if we want to have the time to fight the Free Staters, we need to not be worrying what our federal delegates are doing and have to contact them all the time. Yep. So please support your candidates who you know are going to make the right choices.
I want to give you a second actually to talk about what you just said, and then Christy, you're up next, just so you know, you're on deck. I want you to give you a second to talk specifically about when you said that they voted for this. Our current federal delegation has voted for this. For those who aren't following as closely, can you explain what that means?
Absolutely.
What you mean by that?
So in January of 2025, the Lake and Riley bill came up in the U.S. legislature, and what that did is that is the bill, the act that required detention. So before that, detention was not required before sending somebody out of the country. So it required detention and took away due process. Now, the ACLU, other organizations, all put out warnings about what that was going to do. And Maggie Goodlander and Chris Pappas were 2 of, I want to say, around 45 or 50 Democrats that voted for it. So they voted against what the party was supporting. And both of them cited like criminal and like crime and safety. That's why they were doing it, which in and of itself is a whole lot of stuff to unpack. Then in June, which is well after we saw what was going on, they signed on to a letter that only 75 Democrats signed on to, thanking ICE. They literally thanked ICE and encouraged communities to work with them more. As of this date, they still have not come out against ICE fully. They've said, oh, this is a sad thing going on. They haven't said we need to stop ICE. They haven't said I'm going to do everything I can to get the detention center. They're playing it very much in the middle where they're saying our communities don't want this, so we'll make sure that we relay the message. That's pretty much it. So that is what we need to do. I mean, we have to get them out.
It sounds so similar to Kelly Ayotte and how she's handling this and refusing to pick a side. There's this very New Hampshire sensibility in our politicians where they're trying to appeal to both sides of the aisle, and in doing so, they're taking these morally repugnant positions and appealing to no one.
But here's the other thing they're doing. A lot of people still like them because of what they say out loud, right?
Yeah.
Or Goodlander went and she's one of the seditious six. Mm-hmm. We have to look at the difference between what they say to us and how they actually vote and what they're doing. They might have a survey. What are they doing with it? Are they actually stopping things with it? So we really have to, we're all getting more involved. We have to even keep looking closer.
We have
because
to.
It's really important to see not just how your state reps vote, but how your federal delegation is voting, especially when they're voting against the way their party is voting.
Amazing. Paige, thank you. Do you want to give a plug for how people can find you?
I want to give a plug. So everybody, if you don't want to be here next year, and if you want more time and resources to fight the New Hampshire state level fight, which we need, please consider supporting the campaign that I am running for Congressional District 2 here in New Hampshire. I'm running for U.S. Congress. I will be in the primary against Maggie Goodlander on September 8th, as Heath said if you were watching him. I am a mom. I am a nurse. I work in public health. I work in equality. I build public health programs. I am a working person. I stand for Medicare for all, comprehensive housing reform. I'm a big family person, so I really work hard on paid leave and childcare. I support I support the Palestinians in the genocide that they are going through, and I am 100% abolish ICE. And I'm going further because I work with undocumented immigrants. I help supply their vaccines that help get them to become citizens. The process needs to be so much easier. And so I'm really committed to also fixing that part of the system, which has led to a lot of this. So please go online, find me. I am PAIGEFORNH, so pagefornewhampshire.com. You can find all my socials there. Please sign up for the email because, as a lot of us have said, we're not going to raise the money that the political dynasties have. And so, incidentally, that makes other donors think they shouldn't donate to us. So one of the best ways that you can help us show that we do have support is to sign up for our email list. So if I can go and say, well, I have 10,000 supporters.
That's a good tip.
Yeah.
That's a good tip.
So, don't just look at my website, just sign up.
Get on the list.
Get everybody you know to sign up for our emails.
Amazing.
We don't have money to pay people, so please volunteer. Make a phone call. Tell your friends about us. Share our socials.
Absolutely.
I know that was a long plug, but I got to take the time.
Hey, we're live. We got time, baby.
Yeah, thank you. Thank
you. Thank you for talking to us.
If you see this sticker, guys, this is a nod to Bernie. That's my logo. I really tried, Marissa.
It's all right. You're doing your best.
So if you see this, give us a shout out.
I love
Thanks,
it.
everyone.
Thank you, Paige. I'll take your.
I thought she was giving me a handshake or a half
Just
hug.
a little affection.
A little affection.
Thank you so much, Paige.
Thank you.
Did Christy get pulled into another interview?
I took her.
Oh, you took her. All right. Well, I'm gonna bring Bridget in now. Did somebody poach my guest from right under me? Okay, these are two. They're stuck together with a little bit of a little magnet, but you're gonna have to just sort of delicately hold them. No, you're good. You're in high demand. The Merrimack residents. Guys, we're here with our friend Christy for the People, if you follow her on TikTok. Christy, tell us a little bit about what you're doing here today and why you came out on this snowy, beautiful day.
Absolutely. So I'm a Merrimack resident, so this hits very near and dear to my heart. And I mean, as you can hear, we have a lot of support against this facility. And so for me, it stems more than just me being a Merrimack resident and me not wanting this here. It shows how many people are willing to stand up for what's right. And this is happening all over the country, not just New Hampshire, not just Merrimack. And I think that when we band together, we can really show that we have power in numbers, right? Solidarity to oppose this. So yeah.
Absolutely. Can you tell me a little bit about, so one of the things that's been really interesting and the news has covered a lot is how this story has kind of come out in like fits and starts, and we get like a little bit of information and then people say that that's not right, and then there's more information. Tell me about how you've been kind of finding things out and what has sort of made its way. Like, talk to me through your pattern, your kind of how you've learned about everything that's happening over the months.
I think I've had an easier time getting the information because being a Merrimack resident, I follow our representatives, and honestly, Rosemary Rung has been the number one way that I've been able to get some information. She's been very vocal about just posting everything that's happening in the moment when it's happening. So just following my representatives, and I think what's tough is, you're right, there's been so much confusion about what is actually happening, if it's happening, if it's not happening, and I feel like we were gaslit for a very long time. Oh, it's not actually happening. Look at all these people coming out to protest, last month or whatever. We were crazy then, and now we know this is actually going to happen. And I think just the confusion was the goal with this, because as people didn't know what was happening, it allowed the project to move forward in the background. And so I think it was intentional to have a lot of confusion about this. So.
It was all the facts were obfuscated until they weren't, and then it was too late in a lot of ways. And so we know that it's not that simple, and that's why we're here pushing back, continuing to show that residents here at Merrimack, folks in New Hampshire and the broader New Hampshire community don't want this here in our backyard. Tell me more about the talk around town and how Merrimack's a very purple community for those who don't know.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about how folks in the community are reacting to this.
Yeah, so we have a Facebook group that is pretty active, and so that gets a little dicey in there, but these are my neighbors that are in support of it. And so I think the reality is we have some education to do to show why this wouldn't be good for our community, including the fact that it's $529,000 of revenue in tax dollars that's going to be lost. And so that number just came out, and that hard number, I think, is making a lot of people rethink. Like,
can you explain what that means? That's the calculations that they're estimating.
Yeah. So they had said because of the sale, that is what is going to be lost for revenue for the town. So I think it's very 50-50. I'm going to be honest, as much as I would love to say, there's obviously so much opposition across the state, but in the town, I think there just needs to be some education on why this isn't good for our community. But no, the people that are speaking out about it, they're being very loud. The people that haven't typically been involved in these situations, they're coming out here because they said, if I'm not showing up, who is? So
that's amazing. I imagine there's an element of camaraderie that comes out too as you walk around and you see your neighbors that maybe you wouldn't have assumed would be here.
I just met one for the first time, and I'm like, it's so glad to see you here. Like, we're all, it's great.
That's amazing. What brings you out specifically? We mentioned there's the financial components. Pat, do you want us any closer, or are we good here? Okay. Where there's the financial components, there's the tax dollars, there's the impact on the community, and there's obviously like the humanitarian pieces. When you're talking to people around you, what do you hear coming up as reasons that people are opposing this?
In the town, I would say the reasons are tax purposes, because we are in the second year of a default budget, and so our resources already are not there, and so people are very conscious about how much this is going to raise our taxes. But in the world, the human rights violations that are happening, and I have a sign here that's talking about the Dilley Detention Center and what is going on there with the children in specific.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so the most recent thing that I had seen is that they are not giving these children the proper care, and they're also not releasing them in the time frame that they're supposed to. And so the most recent story I just saw was how a 2-month-old baby was in respiratory distress from catching bronchitis in the center, and they didn't offer care soon enough. They got sent to the hospital in respiratory distress, and then they deported them. They dropped them over the border without any resources, any help, any medical help, and this is what's happening to the children. And so however you feel, just think about if you want that to happen to children all over the place. This could happen here in our state as well. And
I think we're all complicit in that, right? I think that if we are setting back and allowing this to happen in our community, we're responsible for that. And I've been saying this to people. Someday, all this information is going to come out about what's happening right now in these facilities that so many people are oblivious to. And I think there's a lot of blame to be placed on why that's happening and why the news isn't appropriately covering what's happening. But it's horrific, and I think you and I are both mothers, and like that stuff.
What will your child say?
It is really, really hard to even like put yourself in that headspace, and so that I think it's important that I appreciate you raising awareness about it, but it's kind of crazy that we're in this moment where I'm like, hold this thing up on the internet
Tell
so
people
people
what's
will
going on.
Google it. Like, so people will look this up.
That's why I said look up. Look it up yourself. Research this stuff yourself.
And I'm seeing more and more of that, of people just saying, please search this term. Please search this. The information is so hard to get a hold of. So, okay, so I'll wrap up with you. I'll let you off the hook soon. Any final words of like, what do you want people from New Hampshire to know about what they can do to help push back here? And what do you want people who are maybe watching from outside of New Hampshire to understand about what's happening here and how they might be able to push back in their own communities?
Yeah, I mean, I think my biggest piece of advice is to just don't stop showing up, because I think in an age where we're just inundated with all this news that is meant to keep us in this state of like freeze mode, if you stop showing up, that's kind of the goal, right? So if you continue to show up in the spaces that you can show up, whether that be you're posting about it and you're raising awareness, you're actually showing up to rallies, you're writing to your elected officials, like you just have to keep showing up and doing the work, because if we don't do it, again, who's gonna? So
this is not how any of us want to be spending our Saturdays,
very cool.
but we have to. Like, this is what we have to continue doing. So thank you for showing up. Thank you for showing your kids how to show up. I think it's so important that we're like setting this example and doing this work. So awesome.
And scene.
All right, thank you so much,
No,
Christy. I appreciate it. All right, we're back, friends. Thanks. We're just shuffling things around. Things are very chaotic here today. We've got a huge turnout here in Merrimack, so if you're just joining us, thank you for being here. I'm here with Alice Wade, Representative State Rep Alice Wade, who's here with us. Alice, you have been all over this from the beginning. There has been so much pushback happening across the state to what's happening with ICE. Can you tell me a little bit about your kind of involvement in this, or what you've been seeing happening across the state, not just as it pertains to Merrimack, but like more broadly?
Yeah, absolutely. So my involvement really started pretty early on in my first term as representative last year, when I saw a video of a immigrant and his wife getting their window smashed in with a sledgehammer down in Bedford, Massachusetts. His name was Juan Francisco Mendez, and that video went pretty viral on the internet, obviously, because they didn't have a warrant, they didn't have any proof. They were actually even calling out the wrong name. They were calling out for a man named Antonio, and Juan is obviously not Antonio. It was a complete case of mistaken identity, but they didn't care. They didn't wait for a lawyer to show up. They just went straight to smashing in their car window with a sledgehammer.
And that was in Bedford, New Hampshire, in when?
Bedford, Massachusetts.
Bedford, Mass.
So that was April of last year. I believe it was April 13th.
Yeah.
And I saw that video, and I was obviously horrified, but I didn't necessarily think there was much I could do about it. But then I saw in the news coverage that he was being detained in Dover, New Hampshire, in my district. And so
Alice is my state rep. We're both in Dover. That's
yes. And so I was just kind of incredulous. Like, I didn't believe, like, how could he be held in Dover? We'd been told by the local officials that they would only hold people who had been, hit with criminal charges. And obviously that was not the case here. So I decided, you know what, I'm just gonna reach out to his family, to his lawyer, and see if I can find out more information. And maybe I can't directly help him, but maybe I can connect them with Chris Pappas's office. Maybe I can connect them with other resources. And that whole experience basically shaped my entire understanding of what ICE has been doing, because I contacted the superintendent of the jail, and he tells me, oh, they don't have any criminal charges like that they've told us about. Oh, we don't have any information. They just basically sent him to us, and he's here now. And they didn't let him see a judge for a month. It took a month for his case to be heard, where he was just being detained with literally no charges.
And that was in Dover.
Yes.
And so, that was happening next door to a child care facility.
Yep.
Is people are being detained.
Yep, and a nursing home and everything.
Yeah, it's horrific.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't know that facility in Dover has long had a contract with ICE to detain people there. So
yes.
This is not new. It's been happening for a long time.
Yes, and one thing I do want to mention is it's been a really tough conversation, and we're still working through things with the county delegation, but part of the challenge we've been faced with is I know the superintendent of the jail, I know the county administrator. They are all very good employees, like they are great people. They care a lot about, giving the inmates as good an experience as possible, letting them contact their lawyer, getting them food, getting them medication, as best they can. And then we see horror stories about these facilities in Texas and Louisiana where people go in and they never come out, or we find out they got deported to another country without any notice. And so after I got in touch with his lawyer, I found out more information, connected them with resources from Congressman Pappas's office, and then that's how I found out that ICE had fired every single one of their congressional liaisons. So what those are, basically every agency, Department of Education, well, I guess not anymore, but Department of Labor, Department of Homeland Security, they have congressional liaisons where basically it's their entire job is to be the contact person for a congressperson, because Congress people, part of their job is oversight over these sorts of departments. It's being able to reach out and say, hey, there's this, I have a constituent who has this problem, help me out here. ICE fired every single one of their congressional liaisons, so Congressman Pappas couldn't even get in touch to ask any questions. Basically, it was just a complete blockade of information. After providing all the other resources I could, and getting in touch with his wife, Marilu, she's the sweetest woman. They have a 9-year-old son. And one weekend, I decided to go down to Massachusetts to drive her, because part of the issue was ICE had smashed in her windows. She couldn't drive her car legally. That's just absurd. She couldn't afford it, so I organized a fundraiser for her to get some car repairs. But that weekend I drove down, I picked them up, her and her son, stopped by McDonald's, got a Happy Meal toy. I was there and that's the thing, these are the people that they're targeting. It's not criminals, it's just everyday people. Their family came here from Guatemala a few years ago because they were being persecuted, and all they were doing was trying to seek a better life for their kid. And so I brought them up to the county jail for a visitation, and I sat, they sat by the window. I sat behind them because I didn't want to interrupt, but the guard had given me a Spanish to English translation book because I'm not super fluent in Spanish, and so I wanted to try and figure out, is there anything I can say to him? And, I watched for a lot of it, them holding their hands up to the glass. And it's one thing to hear about those stories, but it is an entirely different thing to experience it firsthand. So, that was the first time they'd seen their father. That's the first time the kid had seen his father in a month. And I also found out it was his wife's birthday that day, and that's part of the reason I wanted to make sure they could get that visitation. And I flipped through that translation book for a full hour, and I just could not think of a single thing I could say to him to make any sense of what the hell was going on. It was insane. And thank God he was able to be released. They still tried to basically keep tacking stuff on after that. They tried to have him have an ankle monitor and all of these other things, and prevented him from leaving the state.
And again, he didn't do, and if you're tuning in halfway through the story, he did no crimes.
Nothing. ICE literally never even charged him. When they went to court, they had to delay it because ICE didn't have any charges, and the judge was like, what are you doing? You just brought this man into court with nothing. It took another 2 weeks after that for him to finally be released. But this is it's not logic. It's not it's just ICE is saying one thing with no proof, with no evidence. It's just pointing at some random person and saying, you're a criminal because we said so, we're going to take you in, we're not going to charge you with anything. And he is one of the lucky ones, and that's the saddest part. His case is one that ended, at least, obviously their family is still struggling with it, but their family's never going to be the same, but there are so many other families where they're getting deported to countries they maybe have never been to. It's called third country deportation. It's ridiculous. It's people who maybe they were in South, they migrated here from South America and they get deported to Africa. what are we doing? And it's just at this scale, and that's the thing with Merrimack. That's the thing with the facility they're trying to put here. They're arresting so many people without due process so quickly that they can't even process them. They don't have the space to hold the number of people that they are arresting based on nothing. And it's absurd. And another thing that I want to mention is a couple weeks ago in the state legislature, we had basically a vote to try and put forward a bill that would, all it would do is allow local officials, whether that's like town official, like a city council, for example, here in Merrimack, what the bill would do is it would allow those local officials to have the final say before a facility like this is just put up with no warning or with no permission. And
that's a very New Hampshire value. Let's keep power in the local communities, right?
Yeah, local control. Give the local officials the final say. And the thing is, Kelly Ayotte claims that's what she wants, but she's not putting her money where her mouth is because the Republicans voted down that bill. They voted down the ability of local officials to make that determination. And that's just the complete hypocrisy I keep seeing here day after day, is like the same people who claim local control in one thing, as soon as it's deporting people and ripping them away from their families, suddenly we don't need local control anymore.
Absolutely. There's so many different layers of hypocrisy that we're seeing through all of this. I think the one area I want to follow up with you on, because I know you're tracking all of this closely, is I think we've been talking about how it's hard to get information about what's happening in these facilities. It almost feels like it's not being covered in the news, or it's not breaking through into mainstream culture in a lot of ways. People don't realize these facilities aren't just like a normal, what we would imagine as like a normal prison system in the U.S. Not that that's good, not that that's good, that's not good either, but like we are really talking about something on a whole different level. And so what are some of the... Yeah, so tell me a little bit about, like, for folks who maybe haven't heard, what's breaking through to you? What are some of the things that stick with you in terms of what's kind of coming through that's really, like, hits hard?
Yeah, I mean, just the thing about, you know, there's a big difference between facilities like, even in Dover, obviously it's not good, but, like, they do treat them well. They give them hygiene kits. They give them medication. Like I know this because I've talked with the supervisor to make sure that these policies are in place. If you heard the story of Stephen Tendo recently, who's being detained in Dover, I contacted the facility to make sure he was getting his diabetes medication because there were some stories that he wasn't. He is doing okay. But then you have facilities like there's a detention center in Massachusetts. There's Alligator Alcatraz. There's these facilities in Louisiana where basically they're just like shoving as many people as they can. People are sleeping on floors. They're not able to contact their attorneys. It's just a complete black box. And that's the thing. Like we already have, last year, 33 people died either directly from ICE shooting them during an attempt to detain them, or they died during the time that they were detained. And that's just the cases we know about. Literally, like it's such a black box that there are so many cases of basically just missing people where we don't know where they are. Even like children and things like that. Deporting a 5-year-old, are you kidding me? Like the fact that anyone is trying to justify this, I mean, it's just this pattern of collective punishment that I've seen, not just for immigrants, but like for trans people recently. It's been a big attack where it's like, hey, look at this one, incident of this person acting badly. And it's like, yes, we should prosecute that person. We should make sure that issue is addressed. But that does not mean that you get to arrest an entire class of people based on the actions of the few.
By that logic, we will be arresting all the white men. That will be what I will be pushing for here in New Hampshire.
And the orange ones too. Sorry.
Gotta get a little barb. Yeah.
There's not too many of those, but
Absolutely. So, okay, Alice, I'm gonna let you go, but tell us before we let you go, two questions for people who are watching in New Hampshire. What actions can they take? How can people get involved, not just with the situation here in Merrimack, but as we know, our neighbors, like you've been saying, are from all over the state are being harassed and their lives being really heavily harmed by ICE presence in the state. what can New Hampshire residents do to support our neighbors? And then for folks who are following who maybe aren't in the state of New Hampshire, what should people take from this about ICE maybe coming to their communities next?
Yeah, so in particular in New Hampshire, I think a lot of more people, like there's a lot of energy around this issue, but a lot of times there's a struggle to channel that energy, and it's like, I care about this stuff, but I don't know where to start. And part of it is just start to learn about how this stuff works in your local community. Because a few years ago, I didn't know how my local town government worked. I didn't know how the state government worked. I cared about this stuff, but I was just so caught up in the national news that it felt so helpless. But then, I learned, like, okay, who are my state representatives? Let me reach out to them and share how I'm feeling about certain legislation, and causes I care about. And, there's also volunteer trainings available for people who want to do rapid response for ICE. Carry a whistle if you spot ICE. There's an ICE hotline you can call to make sure people are aware and of any presence. There's rumors, and then there's like the actual on the ground stuff, and it's important to pay attention when things start to happen locally, not just these kind of broad national actions. Here in Merrimack, this is a perfect example. Look at the number of people here.
This is crazy. Yeah,
hundreds and hundreds of people out on a Saturday, on a very snowy Saturday.
Yeah. I think it's well over 1,000 too at this point.
It's incredible. Showing up to stuff like this matters because it's being visible. Yeah. Kelly Ayotte has had to respond to this because people spoke up. If people didn't speak up, she could still be.
Both of you talking to that.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So, sorry, I'll start again with that. So, here in Merrimack is like a perfect example of.
Hold them both up. Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry.
What? This doesn't feel natural.
Right. Yeah, that'll be fine. But showing up to stuff like this, Kelly Ayotte had to respond to the ICE facility in Merrimack because people spoke up and because people started to protest and say, no, we're not letting this happen in our community. We're not letting another one of these warehouses spring up. And she's been called out. It's national news now because, you have Tom Homan or whoever it was that was testifying in front of Congress and said, oh, yes, we did talk to the Ayotte administration the day after Kelly Ayotte claimed that she had never spoken to anybody in the administration. She lied. She lied, or they lied, or she's incompetent, or they're all incompetent as far as I'm concerned. That's where we're at. And so speaking up when it matters most in cases like this. And another cause that I really care about is consider running for office, and whether that's state representative, whether that's city council, school board, even a local committee, like on your town committee or your Democratic committee in your town. These places are always looking for people, for young people, to get engaged and to kind of carry on and move on to new causes. And that is some of the most direct impact you can have as an individual is, maybe I can't change the outcome of certain national policies, but I can go to my city council and say, let's pass a resolution to not allow our police department to partner with ICE, or let's take these sorts of actions. It's like a drop in the ocean compared to a drop in a bucket. You still have that ripple effect much more directly. And I apologize, got a little bit a lot going on. What was the second question?
No, that was people who are out of state.
Yeah.
For people who are watching, not from New Hampshire, how should folks start wrapping their heads around what they can do in the event that this stuff starts showing up in their communities?
Yeah, so I know genuinely a lot of the same stuff applies, like getting local city council, running for office, and going to volunteer events. There are so many nonprofits doing all sorts of different causes, whether it is immigration related. In Minnesota, the community organizing has been incredible. You have scores and scores of people that have signed up to deliver meals to immigrants who don't want to go to the grocery store because they're afraid that they're going to get profiled. That is a community organizing project that they put together. Here in New Hampshire, we have Granite State Organizing Project. We have New Hampshire Peace Action. We have a lot of groups, some that are focused on international policy, some that are focused on environmental issues like 350 New Hampshire, Sierra Club of New Hampshire. There are so many places that need either volunteers, and if you're tight on time, if you can even just donate a little bit or start a monthly donation to one of these organizations, they need all the help they can get right now, because you do have all these Republican issues where the billionaires are willing to just chuck money at them. Like, so much of New Hampshire politics, so many of these, even the state representative races, are funded by Americans for Prosperity and the Koch brothers. Like, that's they've taken over a lot of local elections because of that. That's why we have the Free Staters. That's why we have so many of these other groups. It's not grassroots. This is grassroots, and there are so many amazing grassroots organizations that they're doing great work, but this administration is doing so much so quickly, it can be really overwhelming. And so the more people they have as volunteers, the more resources they have to help people, the better. So those are the ways I would say, both locally and all around the country, you can take action.
Taking that first step and like getting off your couch and not scrolling, going to one meeting, even if it's not the thing that you're like, this is what I want to do forever. Taking that first step is like, you're going to get tapped into the network. Yeah, exactly. Alice, thank you so much for talking to us.
Yeah,
do you want to people can follow you on TikTok? You want to plug your TikTok handle?
Oh, sure. I'm just Alice 4NH, just TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, whatever else.
You should absolutely follow her. She's incredible. So thank you, Alice, for everything you do, for your advocacy, talking to me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, have a good one.
We're here with my friend Shelby. Shelby, do you want to give a quick intro to who you are, what you're doing here, what brings you out here on this beautiful day here in New Hampshire?
My name is Shelby. I'm a comedian, drag artist, and I do a lot of shit. I do a lot of different things. I live in Boston now, but I'm born and raised in New Hampshire, and I'm here because I can't imagine that there'd be a day where we'd be building a concentration camp in our home state, but that's absolutely not what the state stands for, so I took a long drive to get here.
You're pulling in a little bit late too. It's like, what time is it now? Like 1:30?
Oh yeah.
And things 1:42. Oh my gosh, this shindig's almost over.
They've been here for a long time.
Wrap things up. I'm tired. But what is your impression driving it? Like right now, we're like, the town hall parking lot is behind us, but there's people all just up and down this street. I don't even know how far, but it seems like it's pretty nuts.
I mean, the joke about New Hampshire is that it's the Texas of the North, but if you look around, this is not Texas at all, because there are hundreds of people here, and they're all down the street. Like, to see that folks feel this way and are showing up in New Hampshire right now, like, this makes it feel like it's our state. And it also that we're willing to do something. We're not just saying that we don't want Kelly Ayotte's bullshit. We're actually demonstrating that we don't want her bullshit.
Yeah, what was your perception on all of the Kelly Ayotte piece of the story? I haven't gotten into that too much, but a big piece of the coverage we're seeing is about Kelly's, the did she know, did she not know? There's a lot of changing narratives happening. What was your perception of watching all of this stuff play out over the last couple of months as the news has been breaking?
Well, important to note that Kelly Ayotte's been in politics for more than 10 years, right? So first of all, the odds that she would have no idea is incredibly unlikely. Even if she weren't governor, she would still know, because if you're part of the establishment and you have been for more than 10 years, I don't buy it that you didn't know. But she's a great example of what are you not saying? Because in her blaming other people, blaming someone that she appointed, who she is responsible for, she would blame, the director of Fish and Game for not passing on records? Well, if you manage them and they don't tell you, Kelly Ayotte, that's your fault. Like, you're supposed to manage that person. But when you're passing around blame and saying it's your fault, what you're not saying is, do you oppose or do you support this detention facility? And do you believe that it's an effective use of taxpayer money here in New Hampshire? Do you think it's an effective use of leadership? Because if people can't pay their bills, if they can't get food on the table, the fact that you would spend any amount of time supporting something that doesn't fix kitchen table issues in New Hampshire is just not great leadership. So
100%. It's super, super disappointing. Yep. Talk to me a little bit about you said you had an experience coming in today. How was your trip in?
So as you can see, the road is packed, right? Like, there's nowhere to park. And so I tried to park at the police station down the street. It's a public space, public parking. I figured that wouldn't be an issue. And I think what's a great example of the way that the establishment, both like politicians and leaders right now in New Hampshire, are seeing this is a police officer yelled at me as I was exiting my car. And at first he told me to leave, which is totally fine. If it's not public parking, I'm happy to leave. But as I was getting into my car, he started telling me about how I would intimidate sexual assault victims and that it's not an appropriate place for me to be. Mind you, I'm a sexual assault victim.
Wait, what?
Yeah, yes, right? And so the fact that a police officer's intention is not to keep us safe today, it's to take out his aggression on someone who is demonstrating her First Amendment right. And he, after the fact, when I said, why are you saying this to me, right? You asked me to leave and I told you that I would, and then you spent 2 minutes yelling at me. He said, yeah, I came in a little hot, I'm sorry. And I said, you're a public servant. Your job is to serve the public. I don't understand why you're pushing an agenda on me, is an example of we need to change the way that we think about leadership here in New Hampshire. Because if your job is to keep us safe and to support us, stuff like that should not happen. And that's Kelly Ayotte, that's the police officer down the street who is doing their job, mind you, but not doing their job to come and yell at me when I'm getting back into my car and following their orders, right? It's common sense thinking. This is not some ridiculous ideology. This is asking public servants to be public servants to answer questions from the public.
It's not complicated. It's not complicated. One of the things that we've been talking about a lot is how these detention facilities that we're seeing in all over the country, we're hearing like bits and pieces from these, and that's how we're putting together, and that's why there's such a big objection to this. It's like these aren't, not that average prisons are great, but this is like a different thing that we're talking about, right? Yeah. What's kind of been your perception of what stories are you hearing? What's sticking with you that's motivating you to say, you know what, I'm going to rearrange my schedule, drive to New Hampshire and show up for this?
I think it's the stories that I'm hearing is an intention to change our country, but those efforts being misdirected, right? Let's say you support ICE, okay? And no one here does, but let's say that you do. Do you really think that an ICE detention facility is the best way to reform immigration? Is that truly the most effective use of your taxpayer money, or is it what someone is selling you? Because that's what it sounds like to me, right? And so the stories that we're hearing, one, it's a human rights infraction, right? Like the warehouse that is planned here for Merrimack is against the Geneva Convention. Like it is not it's not just your neighbors telling you that it's wrong. The entire international community knows that it's wrong. And so if you want immigration reform, this is not the best way to do it. And your politicians are lying to you, telling you that it's the best way to do it because research and history tells us, one, that it's not, but two, I'll also say that there's no such thing as an illegal human on stolen land. So we can have that conversation, but I don't know if you're ready for it.
I am, but probably we're going to stick to the topic at hand.
That's okay.
I'm with you. We'll come back to that one another day. So what I'm going to wrap up with you and let you go, but what do you want people to know in terms of people who are following along who aren't from New Hampshire? What do people need to be like keeping in mind as this stuff is coming into their community? How can people get involved? And what do we want to remind people here in New Hampshire how they can voice their opposition to this?
Yeah, so folks who aren't in New Hampshire, first of all, New Hampshire's the best. Live free or die. It's a little gem in New England. You know, the classic White Mountains. I love that I am from this place and I care about it so much. But something to keep in mind is that the states around us being blue doesn't mean that fascism doesn't affect us too. And New Hampshire is specifically particularly vulnerable to this. And we need your support. We need your eyes, right? If races like Graham Plattner's and Zoran Mamdani's can catch national headway, we need that too, and we deserve it. And if you look at it, it's actually kind of interesting and kind of goofy, you know? So please do what you can to support, donate to progressive candidates here in New Hampshire. Just look at our news, check it out. Granite Post has been doing some great work if you want to check it out. But folks that are involved here, do not underestimate the power of your local elected officials. Your state House representatives and your state Senate officials, your executive counselors hold so much more power than you think that they do. And the people who are looking for your vote, at least people who have a lot of money or are taking APAC money, are counting on the average Granite Stater to not pay attention to what's happening. So you don't even have to rearrange your schedule like me, but if you can just pay attention and make sure that you put the dates to vote for the primary and general election, September and November,
September 8th.
That counts for so much more than you think it does. And take care of yourself. Take care of your neighbors, drink your water, take your meds. have your snackies because your health and the cameraman's drinking some water. Yeah, hell yeah. Because your health and you being well also is resistance.
Absolutely. I think we all need that reminder. Shelby, thank you so much for talking to us. I appreciate it. It was great to see you in real life. And now I noticed you've got a Krishma Manzar button. I'm going to actually ask you if you'll do me a favor and grab her. She's right there, or we'll give her a holler. I'll take that mic back. You're up. Hi guys, thank you for joining us. We're about to pull in Krishma Manzar, candidate for U.S. Senate, running against Chris Pappas here in New Hampshire. We are at what? It's like 1:45-ish. We're coming up to the end of this protest here. We've been here since noon. People are guessing over 1,000 people. It feels like well over 1,000 to me, honestly. It's been pretty intense. We've got a full house, and Krishma's doing the campaign thing. But how are you? I'm so glad to have you here. We are live, just so you know. Tell me, do a quick intro. Tell us about what brought you out here today on this beautiful snowy day in New Hampshire.
Yes, I'm Karishma. I'm running for the U.S. Senate. I'm a scientist, not a politician. And I came out here because we need to protect our democracy. We need to stand up for each other. Donald Trump is turning our country into a police state. He has turned ICE into a rogue paramilitary force under his control. And we have to stop this kind of violence. We have to stop this unconstitutional, illegal attacks on our citizens, as well as other people in this country.
Absolutely. So one of the things we've been talking about with a lot of guests today is the conditions that have allowed this to happen, right? Can you talk a little bit about what's jumping out to you and what's kind of coming up in conversations that you're having about how did we end up here in this situation?
So Marissa, that is such an important question. So, okay, let me tell you guys. So I'm an immigrant to this country. I was born in Bangladesh. I moved here when I was in high school. I grew up in this country. I love this country. My family and I chose this country because it is such an awesome place to live. It's an awesome place to protect. So when we were being processed, like our immigration case, it was through an organization, an agency called the Immigration and Naturalization Service, INS, and it was under the Department of Justice. That's how immigration cases were processed for decades. Then after the September 11th attack, what they did was Congress decided to create a new agency called the Department of Homeland Security. They got rid of INS, they created DHS, Department of Homeland Security, and ICE and CBP were born. That is when everything took a dark turn. Because instead of treating immigration like a civil case, they started to make it about national enforcement, about border security, which we can have, but not by terrorizing people. We can have both a secure border, we can have a legal immigration system, we can have a humane immigration system, but what we're seeing right now is treating immigrants or even brown and black people or anyone with an accent as if they're criminals. And so this is a country that's almost 250 years old. ICE is only about 20 years old. We don't need ICE. We can absolutely go back to how it was. We can have an immigration system that is under the Department of Justice, and that's what we want to see.
Absolutely. I'm going to have you hold it down right here, have the mic a little bit further too, just so we're not popping them off. So I think that's such an important reminder. People forget that ICE has not always been a part of how our country is operated. It's very new. We did not need it before. We could live without it again easily. Talk a little bit about some of our federal delegation and how now we're seeing them signal that they want to participate in this topic in some way. But it's surprising to those of us who have followed along closely and seen the evidence that they consider themselves to be quite aligned with ICE. Can you talk a little bit more about that for people who aren't paying as close attention to specifically like the Chris Pappas and Maggie Goodlander and these votes around around Laken Riley and around the thanking ICE, things like that are things that are very fresh in a lot of our minds.
Thank you. So let me just tell people who Laken Riley was. So Laken Riley was a young nursing student in Georgia, and she went out for a run one morning and she was brutally murdered by a man who had entered this country illegally. But the law and order system worked. He was arrested, he was prosecuted, and he was convicted, and he's now serving life in prison. So the law and order system worked. But what Congress did was they decided to use that horrific murder and basically take away due process, which is a constitutional guaranteed right for everyone within the boundaries of the United States, citizen or not. So Laken Riley's parents asked Congress members to not politicize her death, but they did not respect...
I didn't know that.
Yes. They did not want their daughter's death to be politicized. So the GOP came up with this Laken Riley Act, and basically it's taking away due process, which is a constitutional right. And of course, Republicans supported it, but many Democrats also supported it, including Maggie Goodlander and Chris Pappas. What that means is this was in January 2025 when they voted, and this Laken Riley Act was the first bill signed by Trump in January 20th, 2025, on his very first day, right after his inauguration. And this is when everything became escalated. So the whole concept of ICE since 2003 has already been horrific. Many people have died in ICE custody over the years, but in 2025, it took a really dark turn. We know what's going on in Minnesota. We've seen what's going on in Los Angeles. But in addition to that, 32 people died in ICE custody in 2025. And of course now, because people are out here, and rightfully so, people are horrified, and they're coming out on a cold, snowy day to protest and to talk about how this country is turning into a police state. And of course now Pappas is realizing maybe I should change my tune. So don't let him whitewash his sins. New Hampshire will not forget, and New Hampshire will not forgive.
We have a lot of elected officials who are trying to wash their hands of the situation that we're in, but we are paying attention and we will remember.
Yes.
Our primaries are on September 8th, so make sure that is on your calendar.
Yes, and I want to say, so we talked about abolishing ICE, but what does that mean? We can still have enforcement without ICE, because ICE is just acting like a rogue paramilitary force. So we can go back to, like I said, to the INS. We can have both a secure border, we can have immigration enforcement, we can have the legal pathways to citizenship. We can do all of that, because don't forget, this is an immigrant nation. You know, I'm an immigrant. Immigrants like me, we're not just a part of the American story, we are the American story. We are your neighbors. We are your U.S. Senate candidates. This is a great nation. It's so worth protecting. We cannot go become a police state. And also, so let's think of immigrants as part of the American story, and as people worthy of protection.
I appreciate that so much, Karishma. Thank you for talking to us. I'm going to let you go in a second. What last final words? I'll let you give a plug at the end, but in terms of people watching, how can people get involved and push back against this if they're watching at home and learning about this for the first time?
Right. So thank you so much. So one thing is the fact that people are coming out. Even here, like Pappas and Goodlander, it's pressuring them to change their tune.
I was kind of wondering if they'd show up. I did not see them. I don't think that quite happened.
Pappas is afraid to come in front of anyone unless it's a curated group, so I don't think he'll come out. But if you're not outraged, if you're not horrified, my friends, you're not paying attention. Look at those videos about what is happening in Minnesota, what happened in Los Angeles. Alex Preddy, don't forget, Alex Preddy was assassinated. He was holding an iPhone. He was just recording what was going on. He was a nurse, and when he saw a fellow EMT on the ground, he just went to help her. He was grabbed, and those pictures tell us how he was assassinated. Be outraged, be horrified. Alex was an American citizen. All he was doing was standing there, constitutionally guaranteed right to stand there and exercise, in a public environment and make a recording. We need to step up. Thank you.
I appreciate that, Karishma. All right, if people want to follow you, where can they keep in touch with you if they like what they're hearing?
My website is Karishma for Senate. So I'll spell my name, Karishma, Karishma for FOR, Senate. It's please check out my website. My policy list is very clearly there. I'm a scientist. I don't do bullshit. I don't know.
That's the first time I've heard Karishma swear, I think. I like to think I brought it out in you.
And so, my foreign policy, domestic policy is all clearly laid out. Help us by spreading the word. So many people in New Hampshire still don't know us. I mean, we're a grassroots campaign. And also, help spread the word, volunteer, donate. If you can donate $5, do that. It is so important. I haven't even raised $100,000 because who are my donors? $20 from people who are 80 years old and on Social Security, or $5 from a college student. But that's normal. When Sununu talks about $5 million or Chris Pappas talks about $6 million, that is shameful. We should ask, where is that money coming from? Who owns those candidates? AIPAC. Okay.
Absolutely.
Big tech, big oil, crypto, AIPAC. So help us on the ground. And also vote September 8th. Yes.
September 8th, we'll
September
be there.
8th, yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much for talking to us, Karishma. I appreciate it.
Thank you so
We'll
much.
talk to you soon. All right, I'm going to go grab our next guest. I'll be right back. Anna, thank you so much. This is the first time we've met in person. I'm so happy to see you. Tell me a little bit about what got you out of your house on this beautiful sunny day here in New Hampshire.
Well, I'll be honest, I wasn't at my house. I was actually in Newport. They were doing a community nonprofit promotional event. So I was there. I was meeting with several people. That's why I was late today. And we're fed up. Honestly, our town's fed up. The people of New Hampshire are fed up. I was at this event and I heard the Newport Food Pantry helping people put food on the table, helping kids be fed. I'm hearing the table next door, the Newport Rotary, who's trying to give backpacks to kids to give them a baseline, making sure kids have pencils and pens and a backpack at the start of the school year, making sure families have food for their kids over break. I heard from the Willie Para Foundation right across, trying to provide Christmas presents to families who are already struggling, as we're struggling. And we should be funding these kinds of services. We should be making sure that our families can afford to put food on the table before we try to build this type of facility here in New Hampshire.
Absolutely. It's such a good point, is like we are in such a budget crisis, not only at the state level, but at the town and city levels. We are struggling. There's not enough money because I just realized I've walked way far away too, so we'll move us closer. We are having a budget crisis all up and down. We know, somebody mentioned earlier that they're estimating it's like a $500,000. There's going to be a massive budgetary impact to this town specifically. I want to talk a little bit about how, one of the things we've been talking about is how people getting involved at a local level is really important. That one scared me. That's the first honk that scared me. Tell me a little bit about what you have been doing as just kind of like an average resident and how you've gotten engaged in the last year.
I've been going to local meetings. That's probably one of the biggest ones, and I understand that working families cannot make the multi-hour commitment to go to these board meetings. So I've been summarizing them and making the information more accessible to the general public. And I feel like it's been a great success. I feel like more people are understanding what's going on in their community. I'm trying to take that philosophy and run with it. I'm running for school board in Newport. I'm very excited. Really focusing on a community first. I don't need to wait in office to make an impact on my community. Promoting the free and reduced lunch program. 57% of our kids qualify for that program already. At 60%, we get additional funding. And these are people who just, don't want to fill out the application. They have a stigma around it. There is no stigma. It takes less than 10 minutes to apply. You can do it online. I highly recommend checking it out if you're struggling to put food on the table. As really just trying to promote these nonprofits, get involved, as there's plenty of opportunities that don't involve being in front of a camera.
Exactly, but we appreciate you doing it anyway. I'll let you go quickly because I know you're losing your voice a little bit. But any final words you want to tell people that are following along at home about New Hampshire and why this isn't what we want. This isn't good for us.
As on my campaign trail, I've heard from many people. I've heard that they care very much about their schools, about the success of their town. Cost of healthcare is killing us. This is something at the federal level. At the state level, the lack of school funding is killing us. And at the local level, we need more people in those rooms.
Absolutely. It's such an important reminder. Go to the meeting. Just go to the boring meeting you don't want to go to. It could be the step into something really important and making a real difference.
Some of these towns are actually, they live stream these meetings, so you don't even need to be in person. So check and see if your town is one of those.
I love that. It's a good way to like get comfortable before you go too. If you have like anxiety and you're like, what does the room look like? I need to know what the vibe is before I walk in.
Most of the time they're empty, and that should not be the case.
Absolutely. Tell people, where can people follow your campaign? If you know anyone in Newport, New Hampshire, talk about where people can find you.
Anna for Newport on Instagram and Facebook. I'm doing a live stream on Friday, 6:30 to 7:30 on Facebook at the Anna for Newport page. Meet the candidate night, asking me questions. I'd love for everyone to attend, even if you're not in this town of Newport. Get to know more about me and my history. Also, if you want to follow along with my reporting, I cover Claremont and Newport at the Sullivan County Breakdown.
You are amazing. Thank you for like showing people this whole new path that like of activism and advocacy, and like I just appreciate your work so much.
Thank you for creating the pipeline to make all of this possible.
It's a teamwork, baby. So thank you. I really appreciate it. I'll steal that little mic back from you.
There you go.
Cool. All right, folks, I'm pulling in my friend Jared Sullivan here. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
This was quite a haul. Yeah, this side. That's the audio. This is the highest tech professional setup we got.
No, I like the tape.
So what you had how far of a drive was this for you today? This was a bit of a haul.
This is like almost 2 hours.
Yeah, that's a bit of a drive.
Yeah.
Tell me, why is this important for you to be here today?
Because if we can't stand up to the basic humanity in all of us, what are we going to stand up for? You know, and that's why I got into the race for U.S. Senate back in April when they were deporting Garcia and all those other people to El Salvador in violations of court orders. They were taking away the due process rights from them. And our Constitution is very clear that all people, not American citizens, all people get due process rights. It makes sense, because if Marissa's on some ICE list somewhere and they show up and haul you away and say, oh, she's an illegal immigrant, off you go, and you don't get your due process, well, you're an American citizen and you didn't get a chance to prove it because you didn't get your due process rights. So I was horrified at that time at how quiet our federal delegation was in that moment. That was back in April. I started warning about the dangers of ICE then, and here we are roughly almost a year later, and it's just gotten so much worse. So that's why I'm here, because this can't be happening.
Well, I appreciate you being here. It's quite the turnout, and I think we're probably after 2 o'clock now. It's been a busy day. Talk a little bit, one of the conversations we've been having is the kind of conditions that have allowed ICE to take over so aggressively and to be doing these aggressive tactics unchecked. Talk a little bit about like how you view that. How did we end up in this situation, and who should we kind of be pointing some of our who should we be held accountable for this?
So I mean, this didn't happen overnight. This started with dehumanizing language by people, largely the president, but people around him, over a decade ago, right? We've been dehumanizing immigrants for a long time. And so once you strip the humanity from somebody, we don't see them as equal. They don't see them as the basic human rights. We see them as some sort of monster, less than. And this is the same path that every authoritarian's ever taken, whether it's Hitler, Mussolini, the Tutsis, and the, what are they called? The Tutsis or something like that? I don't know. And anyway, I mean, it's always some terrible language. So that's where it started. More recently, we got the Lake and Riley Act.
Yep.
And our federal delegation, including Chris Pappas, who I'm running against, supported the Lake and Riley Act. And in doing so, what they did is they allowed for increased enforcement without increased accountability. Mm-hmm. And then we passed the big, beautiful bill, which sadly our senators could have stopped, but did not. And then in doing so, what that led to is basically full funding for ICE until 2029. So even though we had this little shutdown of the Department of Homeland Security, which includes ICE is still funded through 2029. And so all of those things cumulatively have gotten us here. And I think it starts with dehumanizing language. It ends up with expanding enforcement without any sort of accountability. And then you throw a bunch of money at a situation, which causes people to have to hit quotas of arresting a certain number of immigrants every single day. You're going to start hiring manpower, not training them, and they don't know how to be properly dealing with people in a humane way, and we end up shooting American citizens in the process.
Yeah. I mean, the training piece is part of it, but we are seeing the violence is done by people who are trained. I think we found out that Alex Preddy was killed. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but a lot of this violence has been perpetrated by people who had been trained and had been in these services for a long time. So there's really, the controls are off. Whether or not people are trained, I personally believe is irrelevant. Can you talk a little little bit about what you would like to see our federal delegation be doing that's different from what they're doing right now?
Yeah, I mean, for starters, they should be using their voice daily.
Yeah.
And they don't use their voice. They never have used their voice. So the only one who's starting to use her voice is Maggie Goodlander. The other three are mostly silent. I think Maggie Hassan did speak about the ICE facility here in Merrimack, which was great. By and large, though, they've been silent for the vast majority of all of these atrocities, and it is unacceptable. And when you're in the minority, you can still use your voice. I'm in the minority in the State House. I still use my voice when terrible things happen in Concord, right? So that's a start, because what we need to do is build a coalition of people who are going to rise up to them, and you do that by using your voice, educating people, and then those people, some of them, will wake up and rise to the moment and maybe turn on the Republicans or whoever they may generally support. So start there. The senators need to not keep their spines when it comes to keeping things shut down. It would have been great if they could have, fought a little bit harder way back when they was talking about the big, beautiful bill, and they did that continuing resolution back, I think it was April or May of last year. That got us the big, beautiful bill and the funding that is going to fund ICE through 2029. So,
I think, yeah.
Now it'd be nice if they could ceremonial, at least to get some press, talk about putting in bills to defund ICE or pull back some of that funding. That might, but we're never going to get it passed. Like, we don't have the numbers. So I think that sort of stuff. But also working behind the scenes, and I'm sure they are. I'd like to think they are. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt because we don't really know. Try to find the Republicans who can turn on them. There's a few that are starting to be a little soft support for Trump. I think people are waking up. Republicans are waking up that this, like housing people in warehouses and killing American citizens and the tactics that are happening are starting to shake the conscience of many Americans. It's not just liberals.
Yeah, I think so too. Absolutely. What is your opinion? Talk a little bit about your running for Senate. Talk a little bit about your campaign position as it stands to ICE. What do you want people to know about your perspective on ICE as a department, and what kind of how you would want to change that? A lot of people say abolish ICE. I think you're in a little bit of a different position on that. Explain kind of what your point of view is at this point.
Yeah, I think what I always say is abolish ICE, but we can't just abolish ICE, because if we just do that, it's just going to shift to the Border Patrol or shift to some other department. We need to reform the way we enforce our immigration laws. I don't think people don't want us to have immigration law enforcement. What we need to have is a system where people are held accountable when they shoot people, held accountable when they treat people who they capture inhumanely. All of that needs to be held accountable. The people running these agencies need to be held accountable. There needs to be accountability. We need to have deep reform in how we do law enforcement. We absolutely should abolish ICE, and I know there's been some discussion of my views on that.
It's a hot topic.
My abolish ICE, I think it's just too much of a bumper sticker slogan if we just leave it at that. Because if we just abolish ICE, it's going to end up in a different department with the same abuses happening. So what I want to say is abolish ICE, because the name is so toxic at this point. We can't keep that name. Come up with a new agency that is going to also involve reform. So that's my take on this.
ICE is new. ICE is very new. What is it, 20 years? Something like that?
Yeah.
It's not, we've lived before it. We can live after it. Yeah. So what else do you want people to know for those following in New Hampshire? Jared, you're also in the State House. Talk a little bit about how people can be, what are you hearing from your constituents? What are you telling your constituents to do when they're coming to you and they're upset about all of this stuff that's happening?
Yeah, I think the best thing you can do as an individual is to have calm, measured conversations with people who are either clueless, people who maybe have a different perspective of you, people who are just starting to wake up to this moment. All of those people need to be treated with some grace. Because if you come at them like, oh my God, you're an idiot, how do you not know this? How do you not have this opinion already? Give them some space to form their opinions, but just help them with facts. Just explain to them, Renee Good was turning away from the guy who shot her in the head. She was shot twice, non-fatally, and then shot in the head as the final death blow with the guy from the side through her driver's side window. He wasn't in danger. That guy should be held accountable, but also people who think the narrative coming out of the White House is real, then explain to them that it's not. Encourage them to look at the videos and do it in a patient way so you don't isolate whoever that person is you're trying to wake up to this moment. I think what we ultimately need are politicians with a little bit more backbone, but also people willing to support those politicians and hold the politicians accountable to give them the spine they need to stand up to this moment. Because, listen, at some point they're going to come for all of us. That's how all authoritarians work. They start with the group that they marginalize and dehumanize, and then they move on up the ladder and keep moving the goalposts. And we all have to wake up in this moment. We all have a duty to write letters to the editor about what you see, talk to your neighbors, your friends, your family, and then if you have the ability on some of these horrible things, because we have our own horrible things happening in Concord, come and testify at bills. Make your voice known. It matters. It really matters. So
absolutely. Jared, give a little plug for where people can follow you and keep in touch with your campaign.
Yeah, please go check out www.jared4nh.com. That's also my name for all of my social medias on Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, Twitter is Jared4nh. Also, I'll just say this, one of the things I talk about is deep system reform so that we can get out of this horrible, toxic, divisive mess. And that starts with people donating individual donations. I don't take any corporate money, any political action money at all. So if you really want to take back money from or the power from the rich people who are funding everything, the power is in your wallet. If it's $20, $50. If I got enough donations, if I got 100,000 people to give me $20, I could go toe-to-toe with Chris Pappas quite easily.
And it's a small, even those small monthly donations make a difference.
Oh, I would love it. So yeah, I put a lot of effort into trying to reform. That's like my big thing, is reforming our democracy to save it from itself. So
I appreciate that. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today,
thanks for having
Jared.
me.
Thank you.
See you later.
Bye.
Thanks.
What'd you think, my friend?
I thought that was a beautiful turnout. That felt incredibly hopeful. I loved seeing so many people I have met in like one online space all turn out together in one physical space.
Yeah,
that
we had
felt
quite
really
the little
powerful.
NH Talk crew over here.
It was good. It was good. We had people from so many different like political groups and different congressional districts and charity organizations. I mean, that felt amazing that just like so many of us who have different views can all be uniting on this.
Amazing. Anything I've been kept you waiting for an interview for 2 hours. Anything that has stuck out to you that has got you to drive over an hour here to Merrimack on a Saturday? We're both mothers. We've got other things we would like to be doing. What got you here today?
Ultimately, I think being a mom is really the biggest thing for me. I also work with kids. I'm a nanny. My background is in early childhood education, and I don't want kids to have to grow up in like one of the Dear America historical fiction novels. You know the ones I'm talking about?
I do, yeah.
Where it was like these kids going through horrible historical periods. And I read those about times that looked an awful lot like this. And I don't want that to be what my kids' notebooks look like one day.
I feel that so much. Well, thank you for coming out here. Thank you for your advocacy.
Absolutely.
Where can people follow you on social media if they haven't found you yet? She's one of our newest rising stars on the NH Talk community.
I'm forgetting my TikTok handle because I am brand new to posting, but it's Brema717.
Give her a follow, friends. All right.
Thank you.
Want to go
Thank you
tell
for doing
Aria
this.
that he's up? Yeah. Thanks, Bridge. What's up?
Thank you so
How's
much.
it going? I haven't talked to you all time.
I've been doing my pre-interviews for your big interviews, so I've been prepping people.
We just kind of winged it.
Christy.
Yeah, and she did
everything
great.
She knows she got from me in that little interview. Okay, I'm just playing. No.
Taking a little bit of credit. Taking a little bit of credit here, Aria.
No,
well,
I loved it out here.
Yeah. What are you've been doing? You've been running your own stream and doing interviews with folks. What was your impression of today? What was your reaction?
My immediate reaction is like when I first got here, I was blown away by how busy it was. Like the streets around us were busy. There was traffic everywhere. And it's snowing. I mean, the weather's not great. It snowed a lot yesterday, so I'm just like, shit. I hope this doesn't stop the amount of people coming out. And it didn't. It was full. I saw every progressive leftist candidate that's in a federal race here today. Kuiper was here, Karishma, they were all here.
Oh, Kuiper snubbed me.
He left.
Is he
cool?
Did he leave?
That's why I couldn't find him. He's been gone.
He was over there for a while, and I spoke to him briefly. Oh, what?
I saw even.
Person tells me Kuiper's over by those
Is that what everyone?
We even had a Shaheen. We had a Stephanie Shaheen spotting, but I think she was only here for a few minutes as well. She was in and out. But yeah, it's been a full house here down here in Merrimack.
Absolutely.
I'm tired. I'm done talking.
How are you? Yeah, I can continue talking if you want.
We'll wrap it. I just wanted to kind of put a nice little button on it because I haven't caught up with you in 2 hours.
I think our plan was originally to maybe like cross over these interviews, but one thing led to another, and a good friend of mine met up with me, Chris, and he became my cameraman. So we were just like walking around. We talked to random people, talked to a lot of like people that I like strangers, like people that I hadn't really ever met or talked to before, and there is a momentum here with the crew that I can't really quantify if you're not here. Like, if you were here, you would feel it. It was joyous almost. There was like a joyous feeling of the people that were here. It wasn't like a doom and gloom type of, even though what we're protesting is very doom and gloomy, there was a level of energy here that I was very surprised by and was very intoxicating.
I feel that. I totally feel that. I'm going to leave everybody with a couple. I just realized it's like 2:20.
Yeah.
It's like so late. I want to go home.
Hell yeah.
Your action items. You're going to call Kelly Ayotte, and you're going to call her not just once a week. You're going to call her like every day. And you're going to annoy the shit out of them, because what we have found in watching this stuff unfold in county after county, state after state, is putting sand in the gears and pushing back and being a massive pain in the ass works. It actually does. It is that simple, right? If you're making somebody's job a headache, it's gonna make a difference. So we're gonna call Kelly Ayotte. Look in my bio. I have a petition that is also making its way to Kelly Ayotte's desk. Keep the pressure on our federal delegation. Maggie Goodlander, Chris Pappas, Jean Shaheen, Maggie Hassan, all of them have made votes that have paved the way for the situation that we are in today. All of them are complicit, and none of them have taken accountability, and they all have a big fat D next to their name. So I would love to see a little bit more accountability from the people that are supposed to represent us. None of them showed up today, to be clear. You didn't see any of them today. I didn't see any of them here today. So I want us to be putting the pressure on them. New Hampshire is not just accepting a D next to somebody's name and they're going to be the good guy anymore. It's a lot more complex than that, and we're seeing it happen. We're seeing it firsthand in Merrimack. Sign the petition. Keep the pressure on, and show up to the meetings, show up to the boring rooms. Those make a difference too. So this stuff, we do not have to accept that it's just happening. We do not have to accept it.
Absolutely. And the only thing that I want to say, we've been talking about it, March 10th, special election in New Hampshire. It is a very important election. I want you guys to know there's only
Wolfboro,
a couple of thousand. It's Carroll County, District 7. There's only a couple of thousand voters, but they've already the GOP has put like close to $100,000 into that race. It's very important to them. I was speaking to a couple of people here that were aware of that race. Pay attention to it. They say special elections are won just by reminding people there is an election. Okay? So do it.
Call your friends in Wolfboro.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. I think that's it for the day. Do something good today, all right? That's it.
Bye.
Kill it. Kill it. Kill it.